Bullet Club.
Joining us today from Ring of Honor and straight out of the Bullet Club and into your ears, the Hangman Adam Page is with us. Adam, man, how's it going?
Oh man, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. For most of the fans up here in the Northeast, we've seen you for years wrestling in companies like Northeast Wrestling, but in 2011 you debuted at one of the top companies around the world, Ring of Honor. Can you take us back to that moment and how it came about with you in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, it's crazy. You throw out a Northeast Wrestling thing too, doing a few shows up there. Maybe 2010, 2011, I did a couple of Ring of Honor's camps that they were having at their school at the time. And after a couple of those, there was a show in 2011, I guess it was. I think maybe either Charlotte or Richmond, probably Richmond, and had a dark match there. And that was my first Ring of Honor match. It wasn't, I wasn't signed then. And it was a couple more years before I ever got signed there, but that was my first kind of time there.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also got to train with a legend, Jimmy Valiant. A lot of guys today aren't that lucky to train with someone of that stature and legacy. Any advice that stuck with you, maybe that he told you that just still rings a bell to this day?
Maybe just to be yourself, man. And he was a character, you know what I mean? But that's who he was. So I think that's maybe the best bit of advice that, he gave to me, and really anybody who came through there, was just to be yourself and try to make that work. Don't be something else.
Not only are you wrestling for one of the best companies out there, for Ring of Honor, you also became part of one of the greatest stables of all time, the Bullet Club. How did it feel for you when the day they asked you to be a part of them?
Man, that was that was a heck of a day, because I knew, it was that, and that I was going to be working for New Japan, in the same phone call. So, that changed my life, I guess, in a couple of ways. I'd never been to Japan to wrestle, obviously. And at the time I was a high school teacher, so I was, teaching full time and wrestling on weekends and stuff. So at that point, I was told I was going to be doing 2 and 3 week tours at Japan and stuff like that, I knew I was going to give up teaching. And I knew that, I was going to be getting paid enough to make wrestling my full-time job. So that was a literal life-changing phone call, I guess.
Sure. And like you mentioned too, a nice perk working with Ring of Honor is that relationship they have with New Japan. Last June you had a match out there. You also won the match, but also the Hangman name was kind of debuted out there. How did that come about? Was it your idea, or was it something somebody else came up with?
Yeah, kind of a mix of me and everybody else in general. I knew that Adam Cole was joining, and I was joining. And both of us had been in Ring of Honor for a while, so we knew the Ring of Honor fans knew the difference between the two of us. But since both of us would then be showing up in Japan too, we're just two similar-looking white dudes, and we have the same first name and a 4-letter last name. So I knew that we needed to be a little bit different from each other. Mm-hmm. And also, I kind of needed a little bit of a character switch in that moment too. So that was something that I kind of decided to do, and pick up the lineage from Luke Gallows and change my name a little bit for that one.
How would you compare maybe the crowds there to maybe the American crowds? Is it totally different for you as a wrestler?
Yeah, a little different. I mean, when it comes down to the basics of it, it's all the same. It's still wrestling. But the crowds are, a bit different. They take a while to warm up to you, I think. For the first few times that you're there, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. I don't think they care too much about anybody. But once you've been around a while, then they slowly develop, I think, a liking to you. It's been really cool. It's been the most wrestling I've ever done. I think Tag League, we wrestled nearly every day for a little over 3 weeks or something like that. So it's the most wrestling I've ever done too, which is kind of crazy, but it's a good crazy.
Sure. And now you were quoted saying that you didn't get into wrestling for the money or the attention, that you got into wrestling to perform. Why is that such an important statement, maybe to any guy who's training now, to kind of like tell these younger guys out there getting into the business?
Well, because it's the truth. When you get into wrestling, chances are you're not going to make much or any money. and chances are you will not be famous. So don't get into it for those reasons, because chances are that's not going to happen. And if those are your two motivators, it's not going to happen for you either. You know what I mean? You have to kind of have a passion for what we do to make it anywhere. And that's, I think, the intangible that I know fans can see it and they can feel it. They don't know what it is, but it's a passion for what we do. And if you don't have it, the fans can feel it and feel that you don't have it. And if they feel that, they won't care about you.
Sure. You stated briefly, too, but some fans may not know that, by day you're a teacher and by night you're a wrestler. Has that been a challenge to balance both of those worlds out?
It was for a while. I quit teaching this past May when I did my first New Japan tour in June, and I kind of knew I wasn't going to be able to teach anymore. So I quit that, but I taught for 5 years, and for all those 5 years, I was wrestling too. And at first it wasn't really that big of a deal because it was just, some Saturday shows and stuff like that. But the last couple of years, once I started working with Ring of Honor, it got hectic. We would sometimes have Friday, Saturday shows, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or, there'd be some times when we'd have like a Monday and Wednesday show with those War of the Worlds tours and stuff like that. So I was using up every single sick and personal day I had. And I think this past school year, I literally used every one of my sick days. Like, I had no more days. I don't really know what happens at that point when you need to take off to go do another job when you don't have any days. But that's the point I was at, and I managed to finish the school year with like no days left in my bank. So it got hectic, and it wasn't just hectic for that. I mean, every day I was working, doing something practically.
Sure.
So it was pretty nuts. I was kind of glad I liked teaching, but I was kind of glad I could hang it up, and do this.
Ring of Honor just celebrated their 15th anniversary. It's still 15 years this year for Ring of Honor. You spent just about half that time in Ring of Honor. What are your thoughts, though, on Ring of Honor as a company, and possibly what maybe the next 15 years could bring for Ring of Honor?
Oh, man. Well, obviously they've done a lot in 15 years. And I think I was signed in 2003, maybe, middle of 2003. So, I've been around for nearly 4 of those, I guess. And in those 4 years, the company's grown a lot. So I kind of expect, more growth in the next 4 years, hopefully for us. That's what I'm looking for.
Supercard of Honor is coming up. What can the fans expect from the Hangman and the Bullet Club themselves?
You can expect the Young Bucks main event in the show against the Hardys. You can expect them to win back their belts there. As far as for me, I don't know. We'll see.
Sure. Well, once again, how about all the fans listening out there? Where can they keep up with Adam Page today in social media?
Cool. Yeah, I have a Twitter account. It's at the Adam Page. I put stuff on there sometimes, so go read it. I have a website. It's adampagerwrestling.com. And I have an Instagram. I don't really even know what the name is because I don't really use it much. But if you find it, I just post random pictures sometimes. So that's there for a giggle.
Perfect. Well, Adam Page, thank you so much, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Cool. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.